following is a production of Cary TV, the Town of Cary's government access channel.
Good evening and welcome to the August meeting of the Operations Committee. We have two items on our agenda under consent. Would either of you like one of the items pulled?
Yes, I'd like to pull the staff report for the amendments to the traffic schedules.
Okay, Jack?
No.
You're fine? Okay, we're going to go ahead and move Wake Med Soccer Park Stadium Building E concessions renovation forward under consent. And if we could have Lieutenant Barker, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, the staff report 13-001 is basically, there's two schedules there. Traffic Schedule 8 for parking, prohibited parking all times, and also Schedule 9 for prohibited parking certain times. And Collins Road, we're asking them for Collins Road under item C there to add no parking on both east and west sides of State Road 1618, which is Collins Road. But what we'd like to do is add that it would state Monday through Friday between the hours of 7 a.m. and 3 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be great. That was my request because one of the things I've noticed on Saturdays when there's a lot of soccer games, the overflow parking heads down Collins Road. And so I was concerned that people who might park there might not be allowed to or make it ticketed inadvertently.
Okay. All right.
Thank
so
you.
if staff is good with that and you're good with that, Jack?
Move it on.
Has strong feelings that he's really good for that. So we will move that forward on consent. Okay, two items for discussion today, or two additional items for discussion. We have ST 1168 Lewis Stevens Drive Extension. Mr. Bailey.
Good evening, Council. This is a project we've had in our capital plan trying to make an additional connection into Research Triangle Park. This project has changed a lot since we originally envisioned it, and the costs have increased dramatically. Also, we've seen sort of a change in our economy, and our priorities for road projects have shifted around quite a bit. At this point, staff is recommending that we stop this project and return the funding, the town funding, back to the general fund. And there is some grant funding here that ultimately we may forego and return to NCDOT. We will try to reallocate that, but the worst case, we may have to return that money back to NCDOT. So that is staff's recommendation on this project.
Okay. And what part of this roadway is in Cary's jurisdiction?
Most of this roadway is outside of Cary's jurisdiction. The road has already been paved up to where Cary's jurisdiction exists, which there's a subdivision called Phillips Place. And then I believe the west side of this road for a short distance past that is within Cary. The east side is within Morrisville. And then shortly after that, just a few thousand feet, you get solely into Morrisville's jurisdiction for a ways. And then you're completely within Research Triangle Park, and you cross under 540 and make the connection that RTP built that came right up to sort of their boundary line, or very near their boundary line.
Okay, so there are many opportunities for funding partners here, but staff worked on that and was not able to be successful. And
Yeah, we had a meeting and discussed this with all the partners, and it unfortunately no one is able to come up with any money. We looked for other grant funding opportunities and could not find those either. We may be able to find some opportunities in the future to partner, but at this point in time, we could not find any arrangement to continue with this project now.
okay, Ms. Bush?
What will be the impact? If we take it away from the funding, what might actually spur the requirement for this road to be built, since it's not within Cary's current jurisdiction?
We could work collectively, and someone with a new interest could ask us to partner on a project. We may pursue, say, Campo Lamp grants or some other form of funding for it, and you can do that with partnerships through Campo. So if maybe Morrisville and Cary work together to try to receive a lamp grant, if that was our highest priority and that's what we wanted to pursue, we could. Certainly as travel patterns or maybe major employment changes within the park, we may have motivation to change that too. But with the, recent completion of 540, 55 widening, Davis Drive widening, when we originated this project, a lot of those things were not in place, and we were looking for almost every way we could to try to relieve some of those congestions along those particular corridors. But realistically, things are working pretty well right now. So maybe if there's a change, we would consider that as well, a higher priority at that time.
One question I think a lot of citizens will have about this is about why it was not widened when you have a neighborhood on both sides of it. If it were in Cary, would it have been widened completely if these neighborhoods had been developed?
In Cary, it's a requirement to widen the roads along property frontage, or they must require a waiver that town council would have to approve. Morrisville may have a little different approach. Part of this road was not even paved or even made gravel. There was some right-of-way dedicated for it, but there was no work done by the developer. I'm not completely familiar with all of Morrisville's ordinances, but we had a discussion at one point after Breckenridge was approved with their planning director, and they said it was not a requirement to do anything but right-of-way dedication on that corridor. So, quite a while back, we did confirm that they would not be making that as part of the development. We didn't really ask about the ordinances or why.
Okay, all right. So a difference in ordinances between Cary and Morrisville resulted in this road not being paved in this
Within the
location.
Morrisville jurisdiction
In the Morrisville
portion of it,
jurisdiction.
yes.
Okay. All right, Mr. Smith, do you have any questions about it?
No.
Okay. I would recommend that we move this forward for consent in agreement with staff's recommendation to terminate the project at this time. Do you agree?
Agreed.
Okay. All right. We will move ST 1168 Lewis Stevens Drive Extension, the termination of the project, to the council for approval for termination under consent. Okay. Our second item is the Safe Light Cary program. Mr. Shiver.
Thank you, council. Excuse me. Excuse me. You have the staff report before you. I think the committee has reviewed the staff report. And instead of reviewing the entire report, I would like to bring council's attention to the 4 reasons that staff is recommending a change to this program and recommending that we discontinue the program. The first of these listed in the staff report are continuing questions that staff has about the aspects of the enabling legislation that continue to be unclear. And I think as council is aware, since the inception of the program, the enabling legislation that contains some things that creates concern for us has not been changed, and that's been over a period of over 10 years that has existed. One example of that is the enabling legislation, which authorizes the program, is limited in that it's set up in a manner that resembles more of what we consider a pilot project. So our ability to expand, to manage that, we believe, is limited in significant ways. There is uncertainty about whether the program can be upgraded or extended to other intersections. And that creates kind of the possibility where, as traffic patterns change over a period of time, we may not be able to adapt the program in the best way we can to the current legislation. One thing that has continued to concern us is the lack of what I would call initiative or indication from the General Assembly that they are embracing this kind of approach to traffic control in North Carolina. The permission for it exists only as special legislation applying to certain jurisdictions. And as I noted earlier, that has not changed in any significant way by the General Assembly. They have not embraced the program, and in fact, in our opinion, my opinion, they have brought greater scrutiny to it, and that gives us a great deal of concern about proceeding and what we might do with the program in the future. The second reason that we think is important for Council to consider is that there have been some engineering changes, new approaches to traffic control that have gone a long way towards meeting some of the original goals of the program. Some of these improvements are the flashing yellow arrow traffic signals, which you see all over North Carolina at multiple red light enforced intersections. And in general, the engineering staff and police department believe that has had a positive impact on safety at signalized intersections. So this has allowed us to improve coordination of signals along a number of the corridors, and that keeps the vehicles in platoons and reduces the number of vehicles approaching the intersection near the end of the green phase. So that improves the flow of traffic and reduces some of the concerns we had in the past. Also, I would note that the universal standard for calculating all red times at each light has changed over the years, and this is a condition where every vehicle has a red light at an intersection. So that has changed. It is somewhat longer, and at signalized intersections has changed in a way that all red times are generally longer. So vehicles have less opportunity to move through the intersection, creating hazardous situations. A third reason that staff is recommending this is increases in level of staff time and resources to manage the program that, quite frankly, we did not anticipate when the program was first begun in 2003 or 2004, and has only grown and has grown rapidly in the last several years. While in and of itself that would not be a standalone reason for terminating the program, I think it is important that Council knows that we are spending a great deal of staff time, and most recently I think the police department has noted that the staff that we have assigned to manage the program, there's been a lot of increase in staff time devoted to it, increased processing time for citations that involves affidavits of non-responsibility for the driver, and increased questions and complaints from citizens about the program in general. We note that because it's steadily grown over the years, but most importantly over the last couple of years. The fourth reason that we would point out to Council is that we have had some process issues, which sort of relates to the last issue in terms of spending time, but also some process issues with the way the system has been operated. And to give you an example of that, we had some improperly ticketed vehicles making legal left turns. So we had to take actions to make a change, instruct the contractor to cease issuing violations for left turning vehicles in those cases. So when one takes all four of those together, and I think that's important to view them all together, staff, after a long period of experience with the program, looking very closely at what we believe is unclear and vague and limiting legislation, and looking forward, we believe on balance that the resources and the lack of clarity in it outweighs the added value that it brings at this point in time. There could be changes to the law in the future. That might be something we wish to look at, but at this point, with those four reasons, I think staff would recommend that we discontinue the program and terminate the agreement with our contractor, Red Flex, and to do that in accordance with the terms of the contract. And by that I mean it will take a little bit of us sitting down and planning to see what those timeframes would be to actually end the contract, because citations will be issued up until final council action, and those will have to be resolved, and there'll be other things that we'll have to work with on the contract before it can be officially terminated. And be happy to answer questions, and I'll ask staff to be prepared to answer any detailed questions about the operation of the system.
Okay. Either of you have any questions or comments?
Just one item. There's something, an item at the end of 4 that the town will remove all associated equipment from the 15 intersections. Is that a cost? Is that something Red Flex does? Does anyone know about that?
I'll ask Mr. Bailey, the staff, to respond to that.
We have not worked out exactly how we would do that. However, we would likely let some form of bid, if you will, to get rid of town-owned equipment and dispose of it. The law requires us to make equipment available to people like that, and we are hopeful that any salvage value of the equipment would cover any cost of removal, so there will be no cost to the town. But until we go through that process, we don't know. Somebody may actually pay us and remove them. Somebody else may want some nominal amount and receive the equipment for salvage value. But until we come through that process and receive those bids, if you will, we do not know.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Smith?
Well, you can start on that unless you're done, or are you?
I'm finished.
No, you're finished. I think if I say something, I'll get in trouble. So these are 4 good points. I think the most important thing that makes this acceptable to me is the fact that we are not diminishing our focus on safety, and that we've made a lot of major improvements in some of the most problematic intersections. That all said, I think it's sad that the program is losing its effect, but if we've compensated in other ways, then there are just too many hurdles, and there's not enough positives right now to deal with it. So, I think the managers, the 4 points the manager said were well stated, and I'll support that.
Good, okay. I think the points that the staff has made about the safety of the program are the most compelling points. And Jack, you probably remember when this program was approved in the first place, one of the considerations for why we approved it was that we thought that we might be able to entertain a type of program where if the camera caught a vehicle entering into the intersection illegally or on the red light, that it would hold the green for the oncoming traffic. And we were never able to realize that aspect of the program, and that's a safety consideration that we're never able to achieve. So I think we have experienced the program long enough, and given the fact that we have some other safety improvements to compensate for the red light cameras, I think we're doing the right thing by moving on. So if you all agree, we can move this to the council under consent for approval to discontinue the Safe Light camera program.
Agreed.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
All right. That ends the August meeting of the Operations Committee. Thank you.
This has been a production of Cary TV. Visit the Town of Cary's website at townofcary.org.